still on INEC and the Senate's rejection of the electoral amendment bill, or rather the provision that will have made it compulsory for INEC to electronically transmit results. We are being joined by Oluwafemi John Adebayo, Head of Research and Strategy, Kimpact Development Initiative. Mr. Adebayo, thank you for joining us on News Hour. Yeah, as someone who has been on the trail of this development, the electoral process, the provisions for the amendments and what have you, I know you are disappointed that this happened.
Yeah, it's extremely disappointing. It is for me. It is concerning. Really, it is more like a pitiable state. I don't know what English to use because English is failing me. But I think in terms of what has happened this evening around this, the basic point that it's very important for us to understand is, I think the Nigerian Senate did not prioritize the aspect of building trust. I think it's just a missed opportunity on the part of Nigerian Senate to be able to ensure that the trust that Nigeria wants to have through this amendment process, in one way or the other, they did not, prioritize that. Because for me, after the 2023 general elections, we all know the reactions towards this process. We all know what came after it, depending on who, regardless of who you are representing or the interest of the person you represent or you support. So the point I'm making is just the fact that regardless, we all know what the reaction looks like. And for me, especially young people, they believe that the electronic transmission of election result is one of the things they need to be able to come out in 2027 massively to also be part of the process. But it seems the Nigerian Senate do not really care about this, and they do not care about building the trust of the people in the system. And this is really disheartening. This is really concerning. And I think the Nigerian Senate actually needs to do better, because this is a provision that most of the young Nigerians, regardless of who you supported in 2023, wanted to see in the new amendment or in the amendment or the new electoral act that would, be used or that will guide the elections or the framework that will be used to implement the elections in 2027. But whichever way, I think the journey it still continues. And I will also please urge Nigerians that as it stands today, the provision of the Electoral Act in 2022, if you look at what the court said in after the 2023 elections, the court, it's more like a gray area that is not really clear. Today, I was reading section 41 of the Electoral Act that actually stated that INEC shall provide suitable boxes, electronic voting machine, and other electronic devices. It's in the current Electoral Act 2022. I think section 61 of the Electoral Act, section 61 of the Electoral Act also spoke about electronic transmission of result, and INEC should actually do that as they deem fit. I'm paraphrasing that section. But if you look at INEC guideline, that is where we can see INEC discretion, INEC way to conduct that they want to conduct the elections. That's the INEC guideline for the conduct of election 2022. Paragraph 38 of it said that in terms of collation or in terms of result transmission, that the ad hoc staff, which is the poll worker, we use beavers to actually snap or scan the EC8A, and it will be transferred to the IReV. That is what INEC said. But as it stands today, the court says that INEC guideline is not part of the law, and Nigerians are urging the Senate to do that. House of Rep considered this, and they actually okayed it. They passed it, but the Nigerian Senate didn't, and it is really, really disheartening. It is concerning. But for me, I think now that we have two different versions, where you have the House of Reps and you also have the Senate version, which completely they are two different versions in terms of that clause of electronic transmission. I think now what is important is there is a need for an harmonization conference committee to be able to harmonize this bill. And the opportunity we have now as citizens is that we're also urging this committee to prioritize this aspect, most especially electronic transmission, because it will aid transparency, because it will build the trust of Nigerians to be able to be part of this process.
Yeah, Oluwafemi, and I will put it to you that it is behoves on you, the civil society, to make sure that harmonization is done in favor of what you're advocating.
Yes, I completely agree with you, and we're doing our home part. You also you're aware of so much of effort the civil society has put into this process, providing technical support to the National Assembly. And the time where we need to even show demonstration to say the delay from the Nigerian Senate is too much, we had to come out to the front of the National Assembly to say that Nigerians needed, we need to actually tell them that we need this urgently. And even at the point now where they actually didn't consider it, we are still going to continue either through civic action, either through dialogue, either through engagement. We're still going to continue it. It's basically of the fact that we want a free, fair, and credible elections. And the legal framework is very important for that. We'll continue to do that. But beyond that, I'm just saying that the citizens need to be part of this process because each of these senators comes from different constituency. What happens if all of the citizens from different constituency engage these 109 senators at that level? It will also speak volume because the Electoral Act is not just Abuja Electoral Act. It's the Electoral Act that will guide the elections, most especially 2027, which is important. And I want to hold Nigerians that we cannot separate ourselves from the process of governance. If you say you want to separate yourself from politics, politics will not leave you, even if you leave politics. Because policy from anybody in governance, in that process, a single policy can change the targetry and destinies of millions of people. And that is why it is important we need to be part of this, engage these senators at that level. We sent them there, and they're supposed to represent us and do what we want.
Yes, Oluwafemi, thank you so much. They are there as representatives of the people. It's a delegation of responsibility, and I think you, the civil society, are doing yours. But there is the need for you to put more pressure from our point of view here. The media is doing its own. We have given you the wherewithal to speak out and to advocate. So thank you so much for coming on News Hour. Oluwafemi John Adebayo is Head of Research and Strategy, Kimpact Development Initiative.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.